Hey guys, welcome back to the God is Within Her podcast. I'm your God's sis, Chelsea. Today we are talking about the faith walk, okay? Because the faith walk is a journey. It's not a destination. It has peaks and valleys. There's ups and downs in life. And I want to talk through the different seasons that we go through. We're going to go through the wilderness season, the seed season, aka season of transition, and the harvest season. And I just want to talk through like the different emotions, how we be feeling during that time. So number one, the wilderness season. The wilderness season is usually a time where you've lost something. Something has caused a heartache. Something has caused you to feel desperate, to feel vulnerable. And most of the time, it's a season of lack. It's a time where you don't have access to the things that you would have. Something has changed dramatically in your life. This can be a injury, a loss of job, a loss of a friendship, a loss of a partnership, loss of family. It can be many different things. During this season, what we see around us is telling us one thing. It's all darkness, and you just literally have to see the light through it. I was doing my weekly reflection in my devotional journal. And today's devotion is Psalms 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And then they follow up with, have you ever suffered a broken heart or a painful life experience? Did you go to God during that time? How did you encounter God's comfort and love? And how does this verse encourage you going forward? So, just those questions right there, like, have you encountered a broken heart? Yeah. Yes, a million times, okay? And only person that got me through it was God. The dark thoughts become very consuming. You have no motivation, which I explained. I used the word earlier, desperation. When you feel like you don't have anywhere to go and you start to get desperate, that's when you reach out and try and fix things, we can jeopardize our morals and our faith for a temporary satisfaction in hopes that whatever we're doing to control the situation will fix it. And when it doesn't fix the situation, we cannot do it in our own strength. That's when we get even more deeper into the valley and the light becomes more dim. So then that's where like the mental health aspects come in, and we're not being able to see light. We're being consumed by very dark thoughts. It's so sensitive because you can easily be consumed by those dark thoughts and result to behaviors like suicide. And that is really serious. Literally, that thought process is what prompted me and what made me think about really doing this podcast, because I'm like, people are really out here living day to day and don't have faith. And eventually, not having a faith foundation, when you do hit those pits and valleys, you can go into a dark place, and it can allow certain things into your life that were not destined for you, but because of your thought process and the actions that you took to try and solve it yourself and not going to God or solving it with God, now we're disappointed because we couldn't do it in our own strength, and it can result into suicide. And because it's so heavy, it's like everything we go through every day is so heavy. I'm an empath, so I feel everybody's energy, everybody who I come in contact with. And people may not feel it as intensely, but we go through those emotions every day. Every connection that we have, everything that we watch, everything that we say out of our mouths, every conversation that we have is an energy. And it's so easy in the season of wilderness. That's when crossing over into doing evil actions can look enticing, because it's like, I don't have anything to lose, so it doesn't really matter what I do. Whatever, I'm just going to do this because it's going to get me temporary relief. And that's why it's so important for us to know who God is in our lives, because when we know who God is in our lives, we won't try to do it in our own strength. Because the more that we do to try and fix things can overshadow what God's trying to do. And sometimes what you're doing to try, how you are allowing God in your life to try and fix things should be through stillness. A lot of times, stillness will look like you're not doing anything, but you just waiting on God and not moving hastily in your decisions and your actions can be exactly what God wants. It is planting the seeds. You're planting faith. God gives us the light. We see God through everything. We see the light through everything. We see the hopefulness, the faithfulness. And that's what keeps us striving towards getting restored. I don't know if y'all know that song by Lecrae, Restored. It's like, do you want to sit in dysfunction, or do you want to join in on the process of being restored? Like, you have to get to that point where you want to join in on the process to be restored, so that when you get to that level of desperation and that season of lack, you're not plummeting down into the depths of the valley. Okay. And even if you are in whatever circumstance you're in, you have God bringing you back up, pulling you back up to the top of the valley, to the top of the mountain. I've explained the idea of insanity and going and doing the same thing over and over again and coming up with the same result. And what I did is I said, hey, think of it as a cyclical motion. So like in a cyclical motion in the way of a circle. So you're just going around and round in the way of a merry-go-round, and you just keep going, you keep going. I picture it as the wilderness season being at the bottom of the bell curve. And then you just keep going up. During that up season is your next season that we're about to go into, is the season of transition, your seed season. Going up is your seed season. Now, this is the season where you're fighting, okay? That's that Ephesians 6:10. You're fighting with the armor of God because the devil is coming for you. You've come out of the wilderness season. You're like, you see the light. So now your faith has been ignited because you see the light. So now you're fighting to reach that hope and that faith that you have every single day. And the devil knows it. And so he's going to be coming for you over and over and over again, more strongly. The more stronger you come, the more stronger he will come. So that means that we have to fight with our weapon even stronger. And that's that Ephesians 6:10. And this is the season where we just moved from the bell curve. So we were at the bottom of the bell curve in the season of wilderness. So now we're going up a little bit. Now we're in the season of transition. We're in our seed season. And in this season, what's most important is the fight. Because you're fighting the devil. Because now, at this point, you have saw the light, right? So you were in the season of wilderness. You didn't go deeper down into the valley in your mental space. You were pulling more towards the light. But now as you're pulling towards the light, the devil sees that. And he's like, whoa, you trying to take one of mine? I had her down there. Put her back. now I'm going to come for you. So the more that your spirit is going to yearn for God, the more the devil is going to prey on you. Prey on your weaknesses and prey on the things that trigger you. That's why it's important for you to know yourself. And in this season, use the armor of God, Ephesians 6:10, which really, all of these are things that really come to pass in prayer. Prayer. I always emphasize that prayer is powerful. I talked about it in the last episode. Prayer is powerful. Do not abuse the power of prayer, or else it's going to come right back in your face. You try to control. I just talked about this. You try to control something that you weren't supposed to control, and now it just boomerangs back in your face. Please do not fall victim to that. In the seed season, the more you'll have to fight really, really hard. And also in this season, I find it most difficult to trust, be vulnerable, and be open. Because in the wilderness season, I just experienced loss. So I just experienced some type of hurt. And now I have trust issues. And now as a way of a defense mechanism, I am very cautious about who I let into my life, and cautious in the way of not just having my blinders up, but also just having my guard up. So I'm not going to deal with nobody. No, I'm not letting nobody in to break my heart again. Because when I love hard. When I care, and I do whatever is needed to try and help. So learning to love, trust, and be open, being 100% raw, is risky. It's high risk and high reward. And the reward is the connection in the community. The reward is seeing God's glory through you. That's the reward. And so I know I personally have some work to do, but that is an attribute that God is calling for from us during this season, and that's to be open, trusting, and honest, and vulnerable. He'll put different people in your life. He'll bring different resources to you. However, if you're closed off and you don't trust and you're not open, you might miss out on those blessings because of your traumatized season. Don't let your previous trauma paralyze you from receiving your current blessings. Don't let it. I am still learning the same. So, as we're in our transition season, our seed season, that is going up the mountain. So as we keep going up the mountain, we end at the top of the mountain is the harvest season. And that's your season where you reap all of the blessings from what you've been planting seeds for in the previous seasons. All that you've been hoping in God for, all that you've been waiting for. During this season, you have to steward in excellence. So anything that God gives you to do, which you were planting seeds for in the previous season, you have to steward over that in excellence. You cannot steward over that foolishly. It's not a game. Think it's a game. We're going to be on our butt. Discretion during this time. Protection during this time. So discretion, I say that because everybody cannot know what you're doing. I just talked about that just now, about trust issues. I can be open, vulnerable, and transparent without divulging my private information. Now, it's a skill. Got to get good at it, but it's possible. And that discretion is a way of protection over your kingdom and what God has been giving you to walk out. And when you have that precious jewel in your hand, you have to carry it with grace and with poise and carefully. It's fragile. One of my kids in my class said that. Be careful, it's fragile. Okay, you have to walk very carefully with God's gift that he's given you to walk out, which is your purpose. And in that purpose, you have to have good discipleship and leadership. So they go hand in hand. The leadership aspect comes first because you have to be a good leader to be able to prune others into the same pathway, like in the same way as train a child up in a way as they should go. The ideal way to do that is by leading by example. So that means that lead by example and you show them where they will go, which is the disciples who will come after you. Your kingdom. Are you bearing good disciples? What type of disciples are you bearing? Who do you have on your team, in your inner circle, in your inner life? And who is there, and how are you guys discipling? And how are you leading? How are you carrying God's precious jewel? How are you carrying it? Don't let it fall. In conclusion, evaluate your life, okay? Do a running inventory of your life. Where are the areas in your life that you need to sit down, pull back, exercise your power of your no? Which ones do you need to pull your guard down, open up, exercise your spirit of vulnerability, being open and being trustful? Evaluate your life. What really helped me to be able to evaluate my life is Priscilla Shirer. I always have Priscilla Shirer. Priscilla Shirer's book, Breathe. And then it has under it, Making Room for Sabbath. So making room for rest, for God. And it literally takes you through the freedom of Sabbath and stops to take along the Sabbath journey. And it'll take you through each part of your life. Shopping, eating, home decorating, social media, working, ministry, opinions of friends, opinions of others, marriage, children, hobbies, exercise. All these things she has you evaluate, rating on a scale of 1 to 10 and seeing which in your areas of your life you need to change. And I definitely would recommend that book for anyone who needs to do a spring cleaning on their life. Okay, it's always time to do it. Honestly, you should really do it every 90 days. I talked about this before, but cutting my life into 90 days for 90 days intervals for the year has really helped. Sometimes I can be very lax and I think every day, like goal planning every day, that's too much for me. It's too much pressure. Like I need time to live. So I love the aspect of 90 days, the giving me 3 months to be able to identify and attain goals. So evaluate your life. It's so helpful. Do a spring cleaning. Look at your social life, your financial life, your emotional/mental, your career. And I also want to mention that what I realized after looking at this is you can be in different seasons and different areas of your life. So in your social life, you can be in a wilderness season. In your financial life, you can be at a seed season. In your mental, emotional, you can be at whichever. But when you're looking at your life and you're evaluating yourself and you're trying to do that self-reflection, break it up into the different aspects of your life because you can be in different seasons and different areas of your life. So that's one thing that really helped me and I realized while I was doing my study. And so I just wanted to share it with you. This faith walk is a journey, okay? It's a journey. Some things that we mastered in one time period of our life will creep back up to come because when you're not exercising something, it can be a lost art. And like I said, the devil's always lurking, so the test is always going to come. The problem is we just always have to pass it. And not all the time we can pass it, but that's okay because Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those who love God and who are called according to His purpose. So as long as your heart is for God and you miss it the first time, the sign will keep coming up. The test will keep coming. Don't fail every time. The tests will keep coming. Do the work. Do the journal work. Ask yourself those questions. Today's food for your soul. I'm going to give you this question that they asked me earlier. Really? Journal your answer for this. Have you ever suffered a broken heart or another painful life experience? Did you go to God during that time? How did you encounter God's love? Emphasis on the how, right? How. So really do some self-reflection so that you always can be able to find God, find Him. All right, guys. Let's wrap it all up. To recap, we could go through 3 seasons in our faith walk journey. And that is the wilderness season. That's usually at your low. That's when you're desperate. You don't have nothing to lose. But it's so sensitive that you can really be borderline doing evil things during that time and be consumed by dark thoughts. So just really be mindful of your thoughts during this season and find the light. Find the light and fight to that light so that you can get to the next season, which is the seed season. Planting seeds in faith. Seeds of faith. There's this saying that people always say, oh, I have to see it to believe it. No, you have to believe it to see it. You have to believe it first to see it, or else it will not come to pass. And stay at it. Stay at it. It may take some time to wait, but stay at it because it will bring you right to your harvest season. And carry that precious jewel. Carry whatever God gave you to walk out. Carry it with grace and with wisdom. It's not a joke. It is not a game. Be a leader so that you can train up disciples. Lead by example. Carefully. Don't give it to just anybody. Have discretion and protection. You can be in different seasons in different areas of your life. So don't put yourself in a box. Don't be so confined. Like we are so multifaceted. We have so many aspects to us as a person. We try and isolate it to just one thing: our talent, our personality, our family, how we grew up. All of these things are encompassing of us. However, if we don't do the work to take a look at it and reflect and see how it is affecting us in our daily lives, we won't be able to grow. Life is going to take you through peaks and valleys. Let's bring ourselves back up from the valleys. Let's not get stuck down in the valleys. Okay? Do an inventory of your life. Do a faith check. And make room for Sabbath. All right, guys. This concludes the first season of the God is Within Her podcast. Enters claps. Woo! Enter claps. Woo! Snaps. Okay? Because God had put this on my heart for 2 years in 2020. And for me to start walking this out, it's just exciting. I hope that this message really helps. It's only meant to help and to really prompt your thought process and to get us to think. Our minds are so powerful, and the world tries to minimize that because when we try to use our mind and we don't want to be confined, you can't put us in a box. You can't control us. So therefore, the world doesn't like that. So they don't really encourage us to access all parts of our brain. It's not something that's being given out. Not something that we could go take a class for. So it's up to us to do the job. It's up to us to take care of the temple. The temple meaning your body, meaning your God, what God gave you, your body and your mind and your soul. So today, this is the last episode of season 1. Season 2 will premiere in June. Oh man, I know that's a long time, 2 months. However, please take the time to go back to the other episodes that you have not listened to. There is a lot of good gems and good mentions that I talk about. And if you go through and start from the first episode, there is enough episodes to be able to listen to one every single week up until June. There's nothing wrong with listening to another word. Just like the Bible, when you read the same verse over and over again, it could give you something different. The same is for here. If you have any questions or would like to reach out to me, please feel free to do so into my email. You can email me at faiththroughdversity@gmail.com. And yes, I'll see y'all in June. Bye. Make sure you're subscribed to the show so you don't miss when we post the next episode.